Greetings, Earthlings. This is Josh.
Brian.
And Thomas.
We're happy to have you along for the ride for episode 3 of Heritage Cycles podcast.
Yeah.
So, saddle up and let's get rolling.
First things first, as always, what are we drinking?
Yep. I am drinking another beer by Columbus Brewing Company, Grasshopper.
I have a feeling that's going to be a popular brand in this podcast. What about you, Thomas?
I got the Gamma Bomb again from Warpwing from Dayton, Ohio.
Is that the 8-pointer again?
Yes, it is.
This is going to get fun.
And it's the second one.
I'm drinking PBR.
The default beer of the bike shop.
Mr. Pabst.
Well, today's episode, we're going to focus on commuting by bicycle. I also like to refer to it as a functional riding. So that's riding to work, of course, or riding to school, to the grocery store, library, dropping the kids off at the pool.
Anything other than just for fun or leisure, right? If you're riding with a purpose.
Not that riding to these places wouldn't be fun, but this is, riding for a purpose.
Way more fun than a car ride, I can tell you that much.
So Thomas and I both commute regularly back and forth to work. He goes long distances, I go short distances. Brian commutes by vehicle of a motored variety. So, Thomas, I'll ask you first. Why would you ever want to choose to ride a bicycle to work?
Well, normally when I ride into town, there's a lot of traffic on the interstate. And if you try to drive around it, it's going to take forever.
It's illegal.
And you'll get pulled over, yes.
And you get all of the stop signs and stoplights and all that. And all the people riding their bike in your way. So I like to take the back routes on my bike and skip the traffic. Leaves a lot of stress out of the day. Saves a lot of money too, parking wise. Don't have to pay for parking downtown or anything like that.
Yeah, I find it beneficial to my mood throughout the day. So if you can get a little exercise before work, it kind of helps you out throughout your day, in my opinion.
Always.
So it's kind of the idea where, a lot of people that I know kind of go work out before work. Like Brian, you do that, right?
I do that.
To the gym.
I do that.
So
yes, I do.
Same type of deal. So it makes you feel better before you go into work. Get your mind clear.
You're awake?
Yep, you're awake without the need of caffeine. But you can use caffeine still. Brian chooses not to.
I don't, but yes, you can.
Helps clear out the turds that ruin your day too.
Right
on the way home. Kind of forget about them once you step off the bike when you get home.
This kind of leads into the sort of the article you found about riding your bike helps you not age as fast.
Right. That was an NPR segment, I guess.
I'll try to put the link in the description of the video. I don't know how to do that, but I'll give it a shot. But we'll go over a little bit what it says here. So basically, obviously, muscle mass. The more muscle mass you have, the faster you burn calories sitting still. The more calories you burn sitting still, the more muscle mass you have. The more you ride your bike, obviously, you're going to build muscle mass. Also, the more you ride your bike and do any kind of cardiovascular activity, the healthier your heart's going to be, which I don't need to tell anyone why having a healthy heart is good.
Nah, you don't need that.
No, you don't need that. The one big thing of having a healthy heart is, goes hand in hand with having a healthy immune system. Based on this article, they found that people that rode their bike had basically an immune system comparable to a 20-year-old immune system. So you have a gland called a thymus that produces T cells. And as you age, the thymus turns fatty and produces less and less of these cells. They found in cyclists that they had as many T cells coming out of their thymus as a 20-year-old would, which means they were better protected by all sorts of infections.
That's awesome.
You ride your bike, you don't get sick.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yep.
Save you money on copays and tissues and cough syrup.
Right.
People will probably think if you ride your bike, you'd get sick more, especially in the cold. But
that's not the case.
It's not the case.
I've found on multiple instances that I feel a cold coming on. You get that scratchy throat, or you start sniffing a little bit. And if you go on a pretty substantial bike ride, get your blood circulation going. I don't know if science can be matched to this at all, or
it doesn't have to
if
be.
It's scientific
proven
at all.
Without.
But in my own experience, I know I've knocked out colds with a good bike ride. a good 10, 15-mile bike ride, and I feel completely better after the ride and wake up just right as rain the next day. So
snot rocket that sickness right out.
There are also lots of reasons why you would not. So,
or why you can't.
Or why you can't.
Yeah.
So obviously that would be like your commute is too long, or you have to have a car at work. Like Brian, for instance, he travels a lot for work, so he has to have his car.
Drop of a hat.
Right. So he can just pick up and leave.
And I also have a 30-mile commute, which, yes, you could do that every day on a bike, but I have to have tools and clothes and everything else.
Right.
And have to hop on a plane or drive to another state at any given moment.
Right. So, yeah, Brian's at kind of a difficult end of the spectrum for our people that can't commute. So, but there are all sorts of different people out there that can and feel like there's just this one little thing that might be keeping them from doing it. It might be distance. It might be that you have to be dressed nice, or you don't want to be sweaty and smelly in the office.
I do.
But there are some tricks that you could do to eliminate those problems. For instance, you could take partial trip. You could take your car, put your bike on a bike rack or in your trunk, and drive halfway, and then grab your bike.
Park at one of those park and rides, but don't get on the bus. Just park your car there because it's pretty safe, and then take your bike the rest of the way.
Right, yeah, and just map it out. Now you figure out, maybe as an example,
for example,
you have 15 miles to work. So it's grab your car, go 10 of that, and then take your bike and go the remainder 5. And that way, it's not too long, and you're kind of easing yourself into the ability to maybe do the whole way one day. So doing split up trips is one helpful solution. You could also take the bus if you have a city bus in your town. You can do the same thing as which I used to do. I used to live about 15 miles from my place of work, and I would take the bus in the morning, put my bike on the front of the bus, ride it to work. I have a couple miles mixed in there to go to and from bus stops to wherever I needed to go. And then at the end of the day, I would just ride the entire 15 miles back. And that allowed me to get some miles in and feel good at the end of the day. So that was a little trick that I like to do. And then if I was feeling it, I would just go all the way both days. Both ways.
This brings us back to our last episode. How to get your gear and stuff there. Obviously, we covered that pretty good in the last one, but
right.
Get a bike that you can put racks on, or they even come with racks now. Fenders are going to be good if you're going to commute.
Oh yeah,
right.
For inclement weather.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're nice. They make it a lot easier to be able to carry your stuff not in a backpack. But by all means, if that's all you have, put your stuff in your backpack.
And the backpack will protect your back from crap.
It makes you sweaty.
It does make you sweaty, but it also, if it's really cold out, it can help keep you warm too. So you can work up to all these things. So you can get start out with your beach cruiser if you want to. It's not ideal. You don't want to be riding in traffic with coaster brakes. You have to backpedal every time you want to stop, but you can do it.
You can do it until you see if you stick with it and want to do it, and then you upgrade.
You can do it. Put your backpack into
Put your bike into it.
That was all I was thinking. Okay. So we got our hybrid bike set up. We got a rack on there and a pannier bag full of our work clothes. What do I do now?
Right. So yeah, you want to have maybe a change of clothes, especially when you're starting out, and if you work in an office in close quarters with other humans that have the sense of smell, you might want to take a change of clothes, maybe like a washcloth or something to wipe down.
Well, if you're lucky, like I have a gym and a shower at my office, so a lot of big companies do have that. So if you have one of those, use it. I'm sure it's cleaner than a commercial shower, I'd hope.
Right. Yeah. Or if you are a bike mechanic, you don't really care if people smell you.
You just get to smell like butt all day.
Just pack a box of fabric softener and just rub it on your important parts and go to work.
Right. Or those little hangy trees that they have in cabs.
Trees.
Yeah, hang those from your.
All right. So I think we've got that
No,
point.
we haven't.
Do we just hop on the same roads that we'd take to work normally?
Probably not. So yeah, you want to try to map it out. So you can. It's easy. Accessible to anybody. You can just get on Google Maps, and they have a bike filter that you can click over on the right side, and it'll show you bike paths, and then it'll give you like a color coded. Does it do that on the Google?
It does show, like the green routes are bike routes, and
right.
It has some brown ones that are like gravel routes and things like that.
Right. It'll highlight bike paths and bike lanes as well. So you can kind of search from a bird's eye view on Google Maps and kind of give you a rough idea of which way you could go, and then just map it out. Pick, roads that have less traffic lights that are not the freeways. So you'll be more likely to have a comfortable ride if you go that route.
There's another huge benefit right then and there is you get a different scenery on your way to work. You've been driving that same route every day, dealing with the same traffic and the same scenery,
listening to the same radio station.
Yeah, just imagine you're on a bike path in the woods or next to some grass, and there's no one around, and you're just cruising.
Right, you hear birds
and that's
singing.
how you start your day. I mean,
you find stuff on the ground. That's cool.
Animals. You see deer. Yeah, you see syringes and stuff. There's all kinds of treasures.
Yeah, I found some cool stuff.
Yeah, you can treasure hunt on your way to work.
Bungee straps.
Yeah,
you find those. Everybody can use those.
A lot of wrenches on the ground.
Yeah, if you're a bike mechanic, you tend to want to pick that type of stuff up. You might want to just leave it for the next guy.
You could start a random art collection of things you found on the ground.
Sure. And now you have an art collection because you're commuting.
Yep. Start an Etsy page.
Boom.
There you go. We're helping your life. There's probably a network in your town or city of other people that commute. Like here in Columbus, there's a Facebook page.
Meet new friends. Yeah.
Columbus. What is it? Columbus Bike Commuters or something like that. Just search it and you'll find other people that are doing this, and we'll give you helpful tips. We'll try to do that as well along the way, because I'm sure we're going to be talking about this from time to time.
You love it.
I love it. I think it's
rightly so
highly beneficial to one's life. After you map it out, drive that. You're used to driving your car anyway, or if you're not, that's fine. But just drive the route that you picked out on Google, and is there a wide shoulder? Are there tons of
a dirty shoulder,
dead hookers on the side of the road? Maybe you want to avoid that area. But you can figure it out. Just give it a whirl. Just start thinking about it, and the puzzle pieces will come to you, and you'll figure it out.
Definitely not going to get the route down on the first try. You'll probably have to ride it and see what you don't like about it, change some parts.
Yeah.
Just see where traffic goes and everything like that.
And leave early your first time, in case you get stuck in an area that you didn't mean to, or something like that.
What would you say a good bike for commuting would be?
Well, any bike would work. Any bike that is in good working order.
What's an
ideal bike is a bike that you can put fenders on, like we said, racks. It has eyelets for all those things. Maybe not your carbon fiber road bike with carbon fiber wheels.
You want something that's reasonably priced. I mean, this bike is going to get wet and dirty and
right.
Rocks and all kinds of stuff. So
something you could put relatively wide tires on would be nice.
There's a lot more cracks in the road than you think.
Yeah, and glass and all kinds of stuff. So don't take your big expensive $1,500 bike out there.
Or your Santa Cruz Stigmata.
Yeah.
Don't do that either.
You can get a decent commuting. Buying like an old steel bike.
Yes,
is pretty good. They all have the connections for the racks and all that stuff.
Absolutely. Or get a secondary bike. If all you have is very expensive bikes, you can get a really nice bike or put it together. That's fun to just have a beater bike. I'm a big proponent of beater bikes. I think everybody should have at least one bike that they could, throw a U-lock around and not care if they scratch the paint or if it falls over in the garage or, whatever. You can leave it outside and not, die of of disappointment because somebody stole it or scratched it. So yeah.
The other
Get
end
your
of that
beater bike.
though is you can't think of a beater bike as like a Huffy, because nothing is going to kill this new adventure of riding your commute than a cheap bike that's always breaking and rides like crap.
Right.
You want it to be a smooth, fast, comfortable, something you're sort of proud of to ride bike. That looks cool, but like, that's old and already got some scratches, some character already built in.
Right. Yeah, maybe check with if you have a local co-op. Most big cities do, and they will be more than happy to help track down a good, sturdy, reliable bike that you could use for a commuter.
They'll set you right up.
Yep.
Google.
Or a bike shop, of course, a bike shop.
Next up, DIY tip of the week. What's it going to be, Josh?
To keep your chain clean, and then also frequently oil it properly.
But
don't be an Uber luber.
Do not.
Don't do that.
So how do I avoid being an Uber luber?
So
I use a spray bottle like Windex and spray it?
Exactly.
Do?
You just take a bucket of oil and douse it. Douse your whole bike.
Douse. Word of the day.
Yep.
Get all the grit.
Get proper chain oil from your bike shop or Amazon.
And edit.
You can leave that in there. So what you want to do is take a little dropper bottle of chain lube and drop it 1 drip per link of your chain. So it's pretty easy to do.
Like a tiny drop, not like an eyedropper
that
drop.
Will do you.
Yeah.
Make sure you clean it off before you do that though too.
Yeah, you wipe it down first.
And Thomas talked about last episode taping 2 toothbrushes, right, head to head.
Yeah,
and then just hold it still on top of the chain, and then just crank.
Yep, throw some degreaser on there, and
maybe we can
put a little away.
Everyone's got old toothbrushes laying around. Boom.
Yep.
I mean, we have a fancy tool for that, but you don't need that.
You can even use the same one as your teeth.
There is Park Tool makes a really cool chain cleaner. There's other companies out there. I think Pedro's makes it too. So if you go to your bike shop, you can ask them about it. It's like a little container that you clamp around your chain. It's what we use here in the shop constantly. And you put some solvent in it, and it has little brushes that turn around as you crank through the gears. And it works very well to clean your chain.
So yeah, once you degrease and run it through something bristly, you just take a rag.
But if you don't clean it off, at least lube it occasionally, and then if you don't have any means to clean your chain, or if you're in a hurry or whatever, just drip 1 drip of lube per link of your chain.
Start at the master link, maybe if you have a master
give you
link.
A point of reference.
Yeah.
Sure. If you don't have one, just maybe put a little mark on it with a magic marker or something, and just roll it all the way through, and then maybe leave it sit for a couple minutes, and then take an old rag, t-shirt, grandma's doilies. What other kind of things are there? Don't use toilet paper.
Don't use paper towels or toilet paper, anything like that. Something that's cloth.
Right.
Blue shop towels work okay.
Yeah.
Okay. They still break up a little bit.
Yeah, expect them to fall apart.
Right. So just an old rag. Old bath towels are what I use at home. I just kind of cut them up when we're done with them, and my wife likes the excuse to go buy some new ones, so it works out well.
Shout out to the wife.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it. Yeah, and wipe it clean. Just grab around the chain and wipe it. So you want as little bit as possible. You just want that oil down in the little bits, the little cracks and crevices of your chain. You don't want it wet on the outside, wet to the touch. So you just want it a little bit will do you. And what that happens is if you get it too wet with oil, as you're riding, little pieces of dust and debris from the road or wherever you are will attach themselves to your chain and then cause it to be like gross, black, crappy. And then what happens after that is that moisture collects in all that gunk, and then moisture and steel create
rust.
How often should you clean your chain, Josh?
Some people say about every 50 miles. I say about every 100 will do you just fine.
And I say about once every week.
Well, yes, because you're doing that many miles.
No, he's doing way more than that.
Right. Yeah,
you should do it like
every day.
Once every other day or so.
Yeah.
I can start to hear about every 100 miles. I can hear my chain just sounding a little bit dry. So
Starting to squeak a little bit.
Right.
Sounding dry.
Definitely after rainy rides.
Yeah.
Salty road
For
rides.
sure. Yeah, if you get stuck in the rain sometime, or if you ride in the rain, get home, at least just wipe your bike down, and especially your chain and maybe your gears, if you can just wipe that moisture off.
Next up on the agenda, we have Heritage Homage.
That's
So-
not too sexy.
So today, we're going to fast forward to 1863 in Germany. There was a guy named Heinrich Inman Christian Mylius. He invented this bike that actually looks pretty similar to a modern bike as far as the wheels are almost similar in size. The front is bigger than the rear. But it was called a bone shaker or a velocipede, which it translates to fast foot. It was made, of course, of steel with wooden spoked wheels trimmed in steel. But this bike now had a direct drive pedal system attached to the front wheel, of course. Obviously,
Yeah, it looks like a modern your kid's tricycle. So that's kind of mechanically how it works. The cranks and the pedals are attached to the front hub.
wheel. Yeah.
So no chain involved.
I like the giant wooden peg pedals they have there.
Well, what I think is really cool is they have this strap up on the handlebars that has a lever that goes down through the frame and down to the back wheel, which you would pull, and it would apply, it looked like a piece of wood to, or maybe it's a piece of steel, to the rear wheel and act as a brake. So you basically had a hand brake rather than just slowing your pedal or dragging your feet. You could pull on this metal lever thing.
Yeah.
And I'll
The
post
harder
a
you
picture.
pull, the faster you stop.
Yeah, and it's got a little saddle on there. It looks really uncomfortable, but it didn't last very long because this bike is steel and wood. Nothing on it is going to give. And they were riding on cobblestone roads back in the day. Indoor riding academies like roller rinks started popping up, so people stopped riding these things outside. I don't know if
Roller skates again, man.
can't say that.
Stupid roller skates again, man.
Yeah, it doesn't say specifically roller skates on this, but they call it roller rinks. So and it's found in large cities. So I'm assuming, yeah, people would just rather put the wheels on their feet.
It looks to me like it would limit your ability to steer.
You can steer the front.
You can
bit,
slightly,
yeah.
but yeah, you would have to.
But your feet would still have to.
Your feet would have to be pedaling
Yeah.
as you steer, and your feet are turning as you steer. So
right.
So
So you'd have to take them off, kick your feet out to the side, and steer, and then come back straight.
right.
It's only made for Stretch Armstrong, dude.
And then I'm sure that's not a freewheel on there, so
No, it's a single speed.
it's fixed. So once you take your feet off
Fixed speed.
and you're going substantial speed, you have to find your timing again, to find the pedals again.
You just brake. You just pull that handbrake.
That's
Simmer
true.
down. Simmer down.
down now.
Calm.
Hills though,
You don't want to take that down a cobblestone hill.
why not?
You need to go see a dentist afterwards. So there's your history lesson for the week. Next week will be good because that's when you get into the penny farthing comes along next
Oh,
week.
dang.
Yeah,
Can't
it's
wait.
Josh's favorite.
I've never ridden one, but I would like to.
You like the artistry, the image of the penny farthing.
Right.
Which is weird that they have this bike that's so almost similar to the same size wheels, and then the next they go to the penny
Monster
farthing.
size.
Penny farthing. That's well, we'll get into that, but that's why they call it that because.
Nope.
Oh,
Save
yeah,
it.
Sorry,
No, you gotta
Matt.
save it.
Get it.
Cut it.
Come.
Cut it.
Hanger.
All right. That brings us to our next segment: hacks and helpful tips. This week's hack or whatever is going to be how to keep your feet dry because you're commuting now, right? You're going to commute, and you're going to try to keep your feet dry because wet feet and skipping CDs are the two worst things in America.
That threw me off. Oh, I like that.
All right.
Yeah,
so
so
how are we going to keep our feet dry?
Keep your feet dry. So first thing I would suggest is to just get fenders. It's not going to be a cure-all to this.
It's going to keep your
issue.
feet dry?
Sure, to an extent. If you get longer fenders, it helps.
They got the little flaps
me
on
quite
the
a
end?
bit. They have some flaps on
Yeah.
it. You get full fenders. If you get the partial ones, I guess Ass Savers. We just saw that today. Ass Savers came out with a new. Yeah, it's called a Speed Mullet. Ass Savers is a like a clip-on fender brand. You can Google it and see what they are, but
Google it.
they're just these little like basic little plastic pieces that you can put under your seat. But they just came out with a new design for a front fender, clamps onto your down tube of your bicycle, and it helps keep your feet dry.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But So other ways to do this, if you don't want to do fenders, you can do a snack pack foot sack.
Why do you look at me when you say
Because I like to get your reactions.
Hey.
For our
All
horrible cycling humor.
What's a snack pack foot sack?
It's kind of like
Jack.
Toasty Toes with Tostitos.
Similar? Okay.
Right. So yeah. So if you find yourself stuck in the rain, pop into any convenience store and just get a little snack pack of Fritos, Doritos, Tostitos.
You don't want free toes, man. That's too
So
cold.
That's too cold, dog.
Dog? Okay.
So yeah, take those, and you can probably don't want to put them over the top of your shoes because they're gonna flap off. So if you're, what you do is, these will help keep them warm too.
Yeah, for sure.
So you take them off, take your shoes off, put the snack pack over
the
your
tip
sock.
of your toe
Over the
and
foot.
roll down your foot.
Yeah, you might have excess orange Frito dust
That's
in
okay.
there.
That's okay. So yeah, put a foil bag on your feet from the store.
Oh, there's one more thing for
Oh.
the so if you do find yourself, you commuted to work, your feet and shoes got wet. What another helpful tip is to take newspaper and stuff them down in your shoe while you're working. Nobody's gonna notice. Thelma isn't paying attention.
Unless
to
you're a tap dancer.
They're definitely going to notice it's 2018.
Don't cycle on your tap shoes.
Why the hell are you getting a newspaper?
All right, so there you have it. There's your
Yeah, man.
there's
Yeah.
your tip of
Yeah,
the week. So next up, bike shop showcase. Today's showcase, Thomas is going to talk about his personal.
Commuter bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell him about it.
It's a 2015 Raleigh Tripper. Doesn't sound like a commuter bike. It was a
Kinda
single.
does. Tripper?
Yeah, I
Taking
guess,
trips?
yeah, I guess it does, doesn't it? Trips to work. Yes. Used to be a single speed. I got tired of commuting on that. Running into little bumps around here in Columbus kind of got annoying when you add some weight to the bike.
And here's another thing. If you do have a single speed, what do you do, Thomas? What can you do with it? You don't want it anymore.
Just turn it into a geared bike, man.
There you go.
And then you can do whatever you want.
If you
Bike
got a-
shop can help you with that.
If you got a nice single speed, which is not ideal for commuting, probably just do the Thomas, and he buys single speeds and puts gears on them every single time.
Yep. And he's like, "Hey, I need a single speed."
Yeah,
Mm.
because they're cheap. They're
That's true.
cheap, man.
That's true. We have parts laying around that we can throw on there.
Yep, just get some tensioners going on. Get your derailleur on there.
Yeah, you got some racks going on that bad boy, some fenders.
Well, that's what was cool about the Tripper, that it came with a derailleur hanger. So,
Yeah.
and then all these little bits and add-ons that made it very easy to add options to make gears on it.
Yeah, so I made it a 1x9 gear ratio thingy, whatever you want to call it. Put a front
9-speed. You just had you made it a 9-speed.
Yeah, instead of a 1-speed. Put a front rack on there to use my work bag. I deliver a lot of food, so I have a nice lunch box to throw food in there, keep it warm and nice and fresh for everybody. Put a rear rack on there, so if I get a pannier, I can throw some work clothes so I don't smell like a stinky butt here at the shop.
And also acts as a fender, right? Rear rack.
Sometimes it depends on
When
if
something's on it.
yeah, if you have like a trunk bag on it or a piece of plastic or a Jimmy John's bag.
But you added fenders anyway.
Yeah, and I also added fenders on it.
All the stuff we were talking about, he did exactly that.
Yep. Changed out the wheels.
Took a fairly cheap bike, and
made it more expensive.
made it more
Functional
for what you wanted to use it for.
Yeah, put some fat tires on there so I could, and change the wheel size so I could fit the fenders. But
Yeah, you went from a 700C wheel to a 650B, which allowed you to put wider tires on there.
yep,
All things
soaking up bumps
make
and
anything
curves.
possible. If you have a decent bike, that's a good chance you can make it into whatever you want.
Hashtag Heritage Cycles Showcase, and you can check that on Instagram or Facebook, and you'll be able to see some of these bikes that we showcase here on the podcast.
Yep.
How much? Do you remember how much your Tripper was? MSRP
MSRP $450.
$450.
Yep, single speed cross bike.
It's a decent bike, steel frame.
Yep, steel frame, steel fork, mounts for anything you really need.
Sexy green, right? Isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, nice and bright.
That was our older one, so it might not be in that color. I'm not sure if it's even available anymore.
Yeah, I don't think they make it. They made it into a different. No, it's still a tripper, but they took the brakes off of it weirdly and made it a fixed gear.
Like a more fixed gear.
Yeah.
Yep. Well,
makes no sense.
All right. We'll have a part of the show hopefully when we get some questions from listeners and all of those. But for now, since we haven't launched yet, we're just going to go with
questions that we hear around the shop quite a bit.
Josh picked this one.
Yeah, I picked this one because it's kind of an unexpected repair for people that bring their bikes in for a tune-up sometimes. And I often check their chain length, and if somebody has ridden their bike substantial amount, then they'll likely need a new chain. So what we do is we measure the chain. We have a fancy Park Tool chain measuring tool.
It's probably not that expensive of a tool, though, is it?
No, it's real simple. It's just like a stamped out piece of metal with a couple of hooks on it. So it'll tell you. You just kind of drop it in a couple links of your chain, and it'll tell you whether or not your chain is stretched too far. And what happens if your chain gets stretched? It will start wearing out your gears in a certain way to where, next time you have an issue with your bike shifting, for example, you're going to have to replace your chain and your cassette or your freewheel and perhaps your chain rings on your crank. So a good preventative maintenance thing to do is to catch your chain before it stretches too far and causes more trouble on your drivetrain. So if you don't have a chain checking tool, or you're not taking your bike to the bike shop to have them check it, you can do a little trick with a ruler. So basically, every link on your chain is 1 inch. So take a ruler to your chain, and you're going to be measuring from one rivet to the 12th rivet, basically. And then if the 12th rivet on the chain is longer than where
the end of the ruler,
where the 12 indicates, then that means your chain is probably stretched and needs to be replaced. Chain stretch isn't actually the metal stretching, like a rubber band. It actually comes from dirt and grime getting in the little cracks and crevices and wearing down the little pieces of metal in the chain, and it kind of gives the illusion that it's stretched. But regardless, your chain will need replaced occasionally, and it's usually about every 2,000 miles or so.
Yeah, unless you're nice to your chain and keep it clean.
Right. Yeah.
Or the cleaner the chain, the slower it will stretch.
Yeah,
right.
All right, well, guys, that's all we got today.
Is it?
Damn. Is it?
That was quick.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah.
More.
Smooth.
So, email us, heritagecyclistpodcast@gmail.com. And anything you want to know, talk about, any of that good stuff. And we'll see you next time.
Buongiorno. Speed bullet.